My delusional husband thinks he can trap me with a fake vasectomy to force me into motherhood, so I ruined his life with criminal charges. Johan and I had been together for 2 years, and we both agreed from the start that we were child-free. I was focused on making partner at my law firm, and he said he'd never wanted kids and had gotten a vasectomy 5 years ago to make sure of it. He even showed me the paperwork from his procedure when we talked about me going off birth control. The problem was that I'd been having terrible side effects from the pill. I was getting these debilitating migraines, and my doctor found I had risk factors for blood clots. She strongly recommended I stop taking hormonal birth control immediately. Johan was so supportive and reminded me about his vasectomy. He even offered to get his sperm count tested just to ease my mind, but I told him that wasn't necessary since I trusted him completely. For 3 months after stopping the pill, I felt amazing. My migraines disappeared and I had so much more energy. Then I started feeling exhausted all the time and nauseous in the mornings. I figured I was just stressed from a big case at work, but my paralegal convinced me to take a pregnancy test just to rule it out. I still remember staring at those 2 pink lines thinking the test had to be defective. My hands wouldn't stop shaking as I took 3 more tests and they all showed the same result. I called Johan in complete shock and he was weirdly calm about it. He suggested that maybe vasectomies could fail sometimes and we should see a doctor to confirm. The doctor confirmed I was 8 weeks pregnant and I just sat there feeling like my entire world was crashing down. I was up for senior associate and this would derail everything I'd worked for. Johan's reaction was what really unsettled me though. He seemed almost excited and kept saying maybe this was meant to be. When I reminded him we'd agreed to be child-free, he acted confused and said he'd never said he didn't want kids forever, just that he wasn't ready before. That was completely different from every conversation we'd ever had about it. I felt like I was going insane. I insisted he get his vasectomy checked to see if it had failed. He kept making excuses about being too busy with work and getting defensive when I brought it up. So I found the urologist's name on his paperwork and called to make an appointment for him. The receptionist was confused and said they had no record of any patient by that name. My hands were shaking as I went through his desk while he was at work. I found a folder labeled medical, and inside were test results from a fertility clinic dated just last year. He had a full fertility workup done and his sperm count was perfectly normal. I felt sick as I checked his browser history and found searches for how to convince girlfriend to keep unexpected pregnancy and lying about birth control Reddit. The worst part was finding a text thread with his best friend where Johan had written, "Phase 1 complete, she's pregnant," like I was some kind of project. His friend had responded with congratulations and asked if I suspected anything. I threw up right there in his office. When Johan came home that evening, I was sitting on the couch with all the evidence spread out on the coffee table. His face went white when he saw the papers. I asked him one question. How long have you been planning this? He broke down and admitted everything. He'd never had a vasectomy and had forged the paperwork using a template he found online. He said his mother was dying of cancer and desperately wanted grandchildren before she passed. He thought if I got pregnant, I'd change my mind about kids once it happened. He claimed he loved me and did it for us to have a family together. "You wrapped me," I said, and watched his face change. "You got me to consent to intimacy under false pretenses. You've been wrapping me for months." He exploded at that, said I was being dramatic and it wasn't RP because we were in a relationship. He screamed that I was selfish for denying him children and that plenty of women would be grateful to have his baby. When I stood up to leave, he grabbed my arm hard enough to bruise and said I wasn't going anywhere with his child inside me. I told him I was getting an abortion and he shoved me against the wall. Said he'd tell everyone I was crazy and make sure I never worked in law again. He'd been documenting my mood swings for months to build a case. His mother had been in on it too and would testify what an unfit mother I'd be. He'd make sure I either kept the baby or lost everything. I looked at this man I loved and trusted and saw a complete stranger. He'd stolen my choice, my body, my future. The betrayal was so complete I couldn't even cry. I was carrying the child of a man who'd violated me in the worst possible way, and he was standing there threatening to destroy my life if I didn't play along with his sick fantasy. But I wasn't going to let him win. I had recorded him on my phone admitting everything while he ranted about his rights as a father. The next morning while he was at work, I packed everything I owned and filed a police report for reproductive coercion and got a restraining order. His mother called me sobbing and begging, but I blocked her number. Johan lost his job when the charges went public and had to register as a sex offender. I terminated the pregnancy alone in a sterile room thinking about how the man I loved never existed at all.